Welcome to the Sustainable Success Show, where we share real-world ideas, strategies, and systems to help you build success that lasts in business and life. Each episode delivers practical insights you can apply immediately without burnout, chaos, or short-term fixes that don't scale. At the foundation is emotional intelligence and effective communication, how you lead yourself and how you connect with others across personalities, generations, and cultures, because that's where trust, engagement, and performance are created. I'm Christopher Salem, your host, and this is where sustainable success becomes your competitive advantage. Hi, welcome to Sustainable Success. I'm your host, Chris Salem. Hope everyone is having a great week. We are excited if you were here for the first time. And again, we encourage everybody that is here for the first time. Again, you can watch our show here on Apple, Spotify, as well as Amazon Music, iHeartRadio as well. And also now, since January, you could also watch us here on video. Yeah, on YouTube at Christopher R. Salem. That's my personal YouTube page where you could also watch the show. For almost over 9 years, we've been strictly audio, but now you can watch our show here every week here at our YouTube channel at Christopher R. Salem. We also encourage you to follow us on Facebook at Sustainable Success 2017. We've been there now for over 9 years when we were with Voice America, and now we are on our own platform. So this way we had more flexibility to cater to how you like to absorb content, not only listening, but also watching us. That's why we made the change back in January of this year. We hope everybody is having a great week. And I am always excited to announce our sponsor, Alumni Direct. Alumni Direct has been with us now for quite some time, and they are a social media community platform dedicated to bringing alumni together from all different generational types and an opportunity to meet new people for the first time. Now, it is a membership program, taking out all the noise out of social media. You get to generate genuine and authentic relationships with the people you choose to interact with. If you'd like some more information about Alumni Direct, check them out at alumnidirect.com. That's alumnidirect.com. Well, we got a great show for you today. We're going to be talking about why smart people stay invisible and how to break free. And we're going to be talking about, looking at self-doubt, visibility, and the behavioral patterns that keep people stuck. And you're going to be hearing from our subject matter expert how he rebuilt his life following early business struggles and personal setbacks, and now commits to helping founders and other leaders develop confidence through action, not theory. And his insights into procrastination, fear of judgment, and why people stay invisible will align directly to where maybe you are right now and where you could do to break those patterns to now get on the path to sustainable success. We're going to be here with Alasdair Cunningham, who is a multifaceted entrepreneur, public speaker, and property industry professional. He is based in London, England, and he is best known for his work in property investment, deal sourcing, and public speaking, as well as his role in environmental and community redevelopment projects. Now, I can keep going on and on and on, but without further ado, we welcome Alasdair Cunningham to the show. How you doing today?
Hey guys, how you doing? Thank you for having me. I just want to say thanks, Chris, for having me on the show. It sounds like it's going to be amazing today.
Yes, I'm looking forward to, and we always like to start off the show just to kind of what you're going to be talking about, maybe a little bit of your background and how that will apply to what you're going to be sharing with us here today as it applies to our listeners and those listening later.
Yeah, so essentially, I came from a background of when I was young, I was always taught by my parents and my peers that if you want to have a job, you've got to get a traditional career, like go to get a traditional 9 to 5 and go down that route. And I essentially became a bus and coach mechanic. So I was a commercial vehicle engineer, and look, I loved it. I really did. I really did. And no, I'm not taking anything away from that industry, but it's a job. It's a 9 to 5, and you're exchanging your time for money. And
yes,
what I realized after 6 or 7 years doing it is I'm not making any more money. And actually I'm killing myself. Like, it's a very physically demanding job. And I started then looking for other ways to just become more happy, become more successful, and to make more money. And that led me on to looking at things that I didn't know, because I am a simple person. Let's just say that. Like, I'm not I'm not uneducated, but I'm a working class person in the sense of I know how to fix things. Okay. And I had to have a whole mindset shift, a whole change in who I was to go from wearing a boiler suit to wearing a shirt. And because that in itself is a big leap. And that led me to a lot of failure. That led me to a lot of embarrassment. It led me to a lot of uncomfortable moments. But it also led me to who I am today. And that person is something I'm really proud to be. And yeah, that's kind of my journey. My journey was I went from being a bus and coach mechanic to building a seven-figure property business and
Love it.
seven-figure training business, and now just do what I want to do when I want to do it. And I'm cool. I'm happy. I'm content.
I love that. I love hearing that. And you and I share a lot of similarities with me. I worked 9 to 5 back when I started my career. I've been, always kind of programmed from my mother with that. And then it was my father who became an entrepreneur that I began to say, okay, I can't work for somebody, even though, I like the people I worked with and all that. It was just something that was just not who I was. So I could relate
Yeah.
100%. What would you share, today that we're talking about this really, important topic, about, why there's a lot of smart people out there, but they're invisible. Like, what would you recommend, what would be some of the things they should be aware of, or maybe that first step they should be looking at that, maybe the step out of their comfort zone and, even if they're having that self-doubt or, their self-esteem is not where it should be.
Yeah. So here's the thing. I speak to a lot of very smart individuals, and they want to build businesses. Now they're often very book smart, and they're very, maybe they're in the corporate world and they've advanced into their career, but they want to come into the world of entrepreneurship. Now, I believe in the world of entrepreneurship, you will learn more by doing than reading about it. I
Oh
believe
yeah.
that the more you do, the more you're going to make mistakes, the more you're going to learn. Okay. Now, a lot of people don't like making mistakes because they get that whole "I told you so," or they get the
Judgment.
judgment from somebody who's not doing anything. And that was me. I was so worried about looking stupid. I was so worried about embarrassing myself because I come from a small village in Scotland where I think the population is like 1,500 people, and there's not a lot of people there, and there's not a lot ever comes out of that village apart from farming, and which is great, but I went from that to speaking all over the world in front of audiences of 5,000 people. And that to me was very uncomfortable. But I basically I learned to start saying yes to everything. So yes to this podcast, yes to that opportunity. Because, if you say yes and you just figure out the noise afterwards, it soon gets you uncomfortable. And I can put that into real life terms because I remember when was it? 2021, right in the middle of COVID. We just started running little events back in the UK, so little networking events were allowed to happen again, and I got an invite to go and speak at a small networking event with about 20 people there, and I hadn't really been doing loads of speaking, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll figure it out. Let's just do it. Okay, so we went and did it, and I went down to this little networking room, and I done a little presentation about property in the UK, and there was about 20 people there, 21 people there, and there was a gentleman in the audience, and he come up to me afterwards, and he says, like, I really loved what you said, and I really relate to it, and he said, I'd love to invite you to come and speak at my events, and I'm like, well, yeah, and he goes, but the thing is, the next one is actually happening in Vietnam. And I'm like, okay, I'll book a flight. And then I ended up finding myself in Vietnam, a few weeks later, on stage in front of 1,500 people. I don't speak Vietnamese, so I had to have a translator. And I just decided, you know what? I'm sick and tired of playing in my comfort zone. I'm sick and tired of being worried about what people think about me. And, I know I'll be successful. Like, but I've just got to get uncomfortable doing that. So, if you're listening to this right now and you know deep down that you've got a bigger purpose in your life, and the only thing stopping you doing that is the fact that you're scared of somebody else's opinion, you're fearful it's going to fail, or you're worried about how you'll look, build a bridge and get over it because, the best things are on the other side of fear.
It is so true. And I can relate to so many things that you said. And I remember because I'm a professional speaker myself. I've been for 26 years. I speak regularly at a lot of conferences. And I can remember when I was doing a breakout back in 2007. This is a long time ago. I was at a global traveler event, and Richard Branson was the keynote speaker, because his Virgin brand was obviously sponsoring the event. And I got invited to the Virgin party, and I had an opportunity to meet Richard for the first time. And we were chatting briefly, and I remember him. I was asking him questions about speaking, and I aspired to be a keynote speaker one day. And he's like, Chris, speaking's not really my thing. I do it because I know, because I'm who I am, but it's not my strength. I mean, if I were just going off of like my strengths, it probably wouldn't be speaking.
Yeah.
And he goes, the same thing comes to business. He goes, when we buy businesses, of course, we do some research. We determine, yeah, there's something here. And then we just make the decision to go for it. And then we learn along the way, just what you said. It's not like they waited for everything to be perfect. And then maybe we'll take a flyer. Sometimes you got to make that decision and take the bull by the horns. And that advice really stuck with me up even till now. And this is going back. So when you said that triggered what I remember Richard telling me way back then.
Well, that's where I got it from. I remember reading in one of his early books. He said, just say yes. And he said, just say yes and figure it out later.
Yes.
And I was really fortunate. I followed Richard Branson a lot. I was really fortunate. About 2 years ago, I was at Heathrow Airport, and I was in an elevator coming from the car park down to the terminal, and the doors opened, and stood in front of me was Richard Branson and his PA. And I honestly, this was hilarious. And he come in the elevator, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so starstruck. And this was at Heathrow Terminal 3, and it was just myself, himself, and his PA carrying his bag. And do you know what I loved about it? He was carrying his own bags as well.
Oh yeah.
He wasn't,
Very humble. Oh yeah.
And I remember thinking, this is like the dream. This is like the elevator pitch. And I thought, okay, what can I say to him? And I sort of got a bit starstruck, and I went, you're Richard Branson. And he looked at me and he went, I am. And I went, I'm about to get on your plane and go to America. And he went, well, enjoy that. I hope you have a safe flight. And then he went out, and I'm like, I completely blew that 20-second pitch. But do you know what? That was my moment of meeting Richard Branson.
No, he really is a down to earth guy. Under the circumstances that you meet him in, and maybe he had to get to you guys had to get to your flight and whatever his reason, but when you said that really aligned with what remember him telling me that, and so true. And you got to go out and do it. And so what do you look like? There are different people, like there's different personality types. Like you said, people are in different levels of confidence. Would you say like do they just go all in, or do they take that first step? Like what do you recommend, Alasdair?
Yeah, as I said, I come from a little village in Scotland where not a lot happens. So we're not the most confident people. We're quite negative and we're quite skeptical. So I think confidence comes with experience, and it comes with just getting on with things. And I was the sort of person that would never do anything because I didn't want to be made a fool of, or, if I had to do like a classroom share back in primary school and high school, I would hide away. But I just realized that you've just got to do one bit at a time. Like if you can just change one thing every day to help you build your confidence, in 3 months, you'll be slightly more confident. And, confidence comes from being confident and putting yourself out there. And, I'll speak in front of 5,000 people. I don't get nervous. I don't think, oh my God, I don't get stage fright and all that sort of stuff. No. I would say, if anything, I get more nervous speaking in front of 20 people as opposed to 500 or 1,000 people. But I would happily, just jump on stage and just figure it out, because I had to keep telling myself, look, let's say I'm on stage doing a presentation about property. Well, number one, I truly believe that you only really speak about what you know. Okay.
Well, that's true. Yeah. You're not going to be talking about something you don't. I would be like, I never say ahs or ums, but if I were like now talking about something I don't know, I'm like,
Exactly. So my point being is if you know your subject, you can focus on delivery as opposed to content, if that makes sense. Because I combine speaking with a lot of facilitation. So when I'm speaking on stage, like I'm always facilitating with the audience to, give me the moment. But here's my point. Like I didn't go from not speaking to speaking in front of 1,000 people. You do small events like speaking at a small networking event or, standing up and sharing on a Zoom room or something like that. And you just gradually keep going. And all I would say right now to your listeners, look, if you've got a business, you've got an idea, you've got something that can genuinely serve people, it's your mission, it's your purpose to share that. And if that means getting on a Zoom meeting with 3 people, do that. And if you struggle with that, just force yourself to do it, recap, make it better for the next time, and then just keep doubling down on that and just keep going and just keep doing something every day that changes that.
Well, and that's, I picked up on something else that you said, just, the consistency, it's not once in a while, like consistently, like find something to put your, not that you're just trying to put yourself in an awkward situation that you can't, like speaking on something you have no clue, that would be something different. But like you said, be consistent, putting yourself out there into something that you can do it. It's just that it's your own self-talk that has prevented you from doing it. But just doing it, that consistency is what raises the confidence. I know that's what worked for me back in the day, that just being consistent.
Yeah. I mean, I was very fortunate. Like when I started putting myself out there in the world of like speaking on stage and things like that, when I really got when I really got into it, I'm quite engaging on stage. So I was getting a lot of invites to go and speak at events because they liked me being there because of my energy and because I liked, they just liked it. So I did have a lot of speaking engagements. And now I have slowed down on that in the last year or so, just because I've had other things going on, but I'm going to be building that back up now. And
Nice.
I'll tell you why, because I actually really love it. I really, really love it. Love it. And
I'm the second. I've been a professional speaker. I love doing it. It's not work to me.
me, same. Yeah, same. I love doing it, so it's not work. But all I would say is like, again, if you've got a business, if you've got a mission, if you've got something that genuinely can help somebody, I think by you not sharing that message with them, I think you're disserving them.
Yeah.
And if it's purely down to the fact that you're scared, like what do you have to do to overcome that? So what do you have to do to become more confident to speak about what you know? Maybe you have imposter syndrome, or maybe you have, because that's a big thing nowadays. Like imposter syndrome is massive, and just remember the people that you share your journey with and the people that you will try to help, the people that are ahead of you will never judge you. The people that are behind you, they might criticize you, but stones get thrown forwards, not backwards.
That's true.
And the reality is this: if somebody does criticize what you're doing, are they a customer? Do they have value? Do they actually,
They're doing the same things that you're doing.
yeah. And it's like, I've got clients come to me and they're worried about putting themselves out there on social media. They're worried about, speaking up and becoming more visible. And I'm like the only people that will criticize you are the people that aren't doing anything or people that are jealous of what you're doing. Simple as that.
So
And
true.
yeah, I don't worry about it too much anymore. I used to. Don't get me wrong. I used to.
I did when I was younger. I'm an old guy now, so now I don't even care. But back in the day, boy, would I have hung on to that. So I could relate to that, what you said. I know we have here, and I'm sure they have it in the UK. As a matter of fact, I think it even originated there, if I'm not mistaken. But, for people that want to overcome the fear of public speaking, if that is something they want to get out there more, we have a thing here called Toastmasters where people can learn. So probably similar and
Similar? Yeah.
And I know it helped me back 30 years ago when I started speaking in 1990, 33 years ago now, 1993. It helped me to eliminate my ahs and ums. So that was very helpful. One thing I got from that group.
Yeah, and there is still Toastmasters. There's also professional speakers associations and things like that. And look, if I could give advice to anybody, like I have spoke at a number of events. Now obviously I want to speak it more. I love speaking, but if I could give advice to anybody is, look, do you know what? You might, even if you do make a few ums and ahs, who cares?
Yeah.
People buy into people. So they'll buy into you for you, okay?
Exactly.
Now, just be real. Like there's too many fake gurus out there, and there's too many people
Oh
out there
yeah.
being fake, and they're standing on stage speaking and telling rubbish, fake stories.
It sounds like like you're in a fantasy world. I rather identify with somebody to say, "Hey, I've fallen down, just like you did,
Yeah,
and I picked myself up, and this is what I experienced. I wasn't always confident like you think I am, that type of thing. Yeah, it just
yeah,
makes you
absolutely.
real.
I think the realness will always come through, and if it means if you make a mistake, who cares? Doesn't matter.
Absolutely. Now that we're on the public speaking, do you feel like, with what you're an expert, you've done so many things with property stuff and do you feel like the speaking has also helped you to build those stronger connections with your audience and the people you've helped over the years?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Right. Okay. I think speaking catapulted everything in my business because it led to opportunities I would never have had.
Yep.
Because the minute you go from one to one to one to many,
Oh yeah.
and if I look at my clients that I work with now, most of them know me from the world of speaking, where they've heard me speak at an event or on a Zoom call, or I do multiple Zoom calls a week with people from all over the world, and I'm there either as a delegate or I'm there either speaking, and it's just like every time I speak, I build. As to me, it's about building rapport. It's about building rapport
Absolutely.
and getting people to know who you are.
Yeah. Yeah, so true. And like you said, and then the consistency with speaking, whether if it's one to few, one to many, is what builds like that rapport and trust, what you said. Because trust isn't built immediately. It takes a little time. But yet when you establish that trust, it probably opened up some doors to people you didn't normally have access to beforehand through other traditional methods, like just reaching
Yeah,
out cold on LinkedIn or something like that.
yeah. I mean, look, we're in business at the end of the day, right? So we're all here trying to make more sales, generate more income, and your job is as an entrepreneur, as the owner of the business, is to move a client from cold to sold as fast as possible, and like I know it sounds a bit crude, but to make as much money as possible. But that's really why we're all in business, because we want to serve, we want to make money, and we want to make really good income. Okay, so if the quickest way to get a client or a prospect from cold to actually selling and cold to sold is by listening to a 2 hour podcast of you speaking or a meeting, then why wouldn't you do that? Why wouldn't you learn that skill and overcome what you've got to overcome to give yourself the confidence? Because it takes a lot of confidence, but to have that confidence to speak clearly, to speak with clarity, and to speak with conviction, that is not something that just happens overnight. Like, you mentioned you've been doing speaking for 30 years. You know, what was the first couple of years like when it comes to presenting?
It was not. I mean, I look back. I mean, it was a lot different because I would still get butterflies and nervous, and of course, by doing it for many years now, it's routine. But nonetheless, it was a learning curve. It just like with anything. But if I didn't keep the consistency of doing it, I could have been just right where I was at that point. So
Yeah.
it's so important to keep pushing yourself, like not like in a hard way, but you always say, okay, if I reach a level of comfortability, what can I do to now make it slightly now more comfortable to learn and grow and keep increasing my confidence, because it's that confidence, I believe, through that energy, the energy of confidence, that frequency that it illuminates onto others, is always contagious in a good way, I find.
Yeah, I find the same thing. Like, I'm always thinking about when I'm speaking on stage or when I'm speaking at an event, I'm always thinking about who am I serving and how am I serving them and how are they receiving it. And you monitor. Like, I've actually just finished a 4 day event, just yesterday afternoon, and I look at my clients. They came in on Thursday, they left on Sunday afternoon, and they're leaving the next level. So they've come in at this level and they go like that level. Now, if you imagine they just keep doing that, they're leveling up, and just seeing how they become more confident. I'll give you one prime example. I've got a client called Francine, and she's a French lady, and she's in the UK, and English is not her first language, so she lacks a lot of confidence when it comes to speaking to people because
Yeah.
obviously French is her first language. You know, 3 days we've spent together, 3.5 days we've spent together. And at the end of it, I asked who wants to share. So she grabbed the microphone and she shared, and she had the confidence to speak in front of a room of 50 or 60 people. And it's just that little thing is just helping her get to the next level, if that makes sense.
Totally makes sense. Totally. I can relate to that 100%. Man, this has really been great information you've been sharing. I know we're getting towards the end of the show, and I know we're going to want to make sure the audience gets to know you, but anything just to kind of connect the dots to what you shared today by putting yourself out there, learning as you go, how to build confidence one step at a time. Anything else that you want to connect the dots for our audience to now take that step, whether if it's public speaking or something else that they've been holding themselves back to take them to the next level in their business?
Yeah, I mean, first thing I would do is I would isolate the biggest problem that's stopping you achieving whatever you want to achieve. So, we've all got problems, okay? Everyone's got issues or limiting beliefs or objections, resistance. You can name it whatever you want, but we've all got something holding us back. So I would identify the one that always shows up the most, and I would focus entirely on fixing that and overcoming that. So for me, the biggest problem I had, right, when I first started speaking on stage was I never used to believe that people wanted to learn from me. So I used to literally believe that I wasn't good enough. Nobody wanted to hear what I had to say. And I had to actually overcome that. How did I do that? By just, whenever imposter syndrome stepped in, I would just remind myself, Alasdair, you've helped people achieve things. So I would find a success story and I would read that out to myself. So, I've got lots of clients that I've helped. And whenever I get imposter syndrome or whenever I get the belief that I'm not good enough, I go and find a text message from a client that says, Alasdair, you really helped me do this. And I would say, okay, so I helped that person. One of that people might be in that audience. And that's why I don't care. I just figure it out. So for your listeners, I would literally say, pick the biggest thing that's holding you back and give that full focus, because what we focus on expands. Okay. So don't focus on trying to fix everything. Focus on trying to fix one thing. That's all I would do. And then once you've done that, move on to the next.
Powerful stuff. And Alasdair, I want to thank you for taking the time to be with us here today, coming from the UK and sharing your words of wisdom. I want to make sure the audience gets a chance to now connect directly with you. What is the best way they can get in contact with you? What are you up to, and anything that you'd like to share or provide them?
Yeah, look, the best way is just connect with me on Instagram. Just type in Alasdair Cunningham on Instagram. I'll come up. And just, if I can help any of your clients, yourself in any way, come on, completely complimentary. If you need anything from me, just drop me a message and I'll do what I can to serve you in any way to help you grow your business.
Excellent. And we'll make sure, everybody, that Alasdair's contact information with Instagram, including others like LinkedIn and reference to his website, all of that will be in the show notes. And that includes all the areas where you can access and listen to this episode, from Apple, Spotify, to Amazon Music, to iHeart, as well as our Facebook page at Sustainable Success 2017. Well, Alasdair, thank you so much again for being with us here today.
No, thank you. Thank you very much. And I really hope your listeners got value, and I wish you all the continued success with your show.
Absolutely. And we want to thank you listeners here joining us each and every week here at Sustainable Success. Again, we are committed to bringing in subject matter experts like Alasdair in each and every week to help elevate you and your business to the next level. If there's any content you'd like to hear on a future show, feel free to reach out to our team here at chris@sustainablesuccess.net. That's chris@sustainablesuccess.net. Till then, everybody, have a great rest of your week and take care.